Hey guys, Garage here, and today we're going to be putting in some airbags into a 3rd Gen 4Runner just to help prevent a little bit of sag in the back when it's loaded up or towing. I've put these same airbags in a 4Runner before, another 3rd Gen that I had. They work really well. They're very inexpensive and it completely levels your load. So yeah, let's get into this, but that's going to be our vehicle we're going to be working on back here. 3rd Gen 4Runner, it's my son's, and let me show you what we got. Alright, so this is the airbag kit we're going to be putting in today. This is the Airlift 1000. It's a real basic kit. It's kind of manual control. I really like it. They do hold their pressure really well, and it's really easy to install in a 3rd Gen 4Runner. So we're going to go through how to do that. These are the airbags themselves, and I mean, there's really not much to them. And they're going to go inside the rear springs. We have some air lines, some tubing. We have a compressor, which I'm going to show you how to hide that and mount it. And again, this is a real basic setup, which is why I like it. So we have our gauge. I don't know why they give you this huge 200 psi gauge. You never really go above like 30 psi or so. But anyways, all you do is to air it up, we're going to flip the switch on. It's a momentary switch, so it springs back and forth. You flip it up and hold it to air it up. And then if you need to release pressure, you just have this little pressure release button right here. You can see the air tubing on the back. So yeah, very simple kit. And on the 4Runners, this is what's cool about it. So it's super easy to mount. So we're going to mount the gauge assembly up here behind this panel. We actually have switched power back here off the cigarette lighter. So that's where we're going to get our power from. And we're going to put, just to keep the, we don't want to put the compressor in here because this is a good storage space. We don't want to take up all the storage space with the compressor. So what I did previously is mounted the compressor inside this panel or behind it. There's plenty of room in there. And from memory, I had to do 2 bolts through there just to hold the compressor on and a little VHB tape, and that's really all it took. Now we're going to take off kind of this back trim. We're going to pull the carpet, and this is the awesome part, which makes it real easy. Right above each spring, where the airbags are going to be, there's rubber grommet. So we're going to drill out just a little bit of the rubber grommets with a small bit, enough to get the air line through, and they can literally drop straight down into the airbag itself. So the installation, like I said, is extremely easy for this vehicle. It's almost like it was made to have the airbags. So I'm going to quit blabbing. Let's get into this. Talk to you soon. but this was real easy. This is a compressor mounting. So this right here is a box. It's on the back side of the driver's side rear quarter panel. And we cut this piece out. We just used a saw, sliced it enough for the compressor to fit. Now we pulled the padding out, and we got one piece of padding behind it, one piece of padding on top. You can see right here, I can slide this up a little bit. Our air line is down in there, our connection. And our wires, we drilled a hole here for the cable and air line to come out. And that's really it. We also drilled 2 holes for these zip ties to come in here. Now, one might think this is janky, but this lasted like, I think it was 8 years in my old 4Runner. No issues. So it's not hard to do. We're just zip tying it in, and this actually almost gets pressure fit in. So that's why we added the pad to the backside. So the compressor can breathe. We've got the air intake for it is up top. We don't have to put screws through the panel or anything. And we're all set. So now we're going to get this panel back in. We're going to get ready to start running wires over to the passenger side where we're going to put our gauge and other parts. So we'll be back in a minute. All right, so we got the vehicle braced with jack stands. We lowered the rear axle, and to get the springs out, what we have to do is disconnect the rear shocks. And when you drop it down further to get the springs out, you don't want to go so far as to overextend your rear brake line, because you don't want to tear that. And then once we get these springs out, we have to cut the bump stops right here on this second ring. I think it's the second ring. And we'll do a test fitment for the airbag. The airbags just go inside, and they're hollow in the center of the bump stops. Your airline will run up through and up into the floor. So again, a real simple installation for the bags themselves. So let's, my son and I are going to get these springs out, get everything test fit, cut those bump stops, and we'll be back. Alright, so we have the spring assembly out. You can see the hole that already exists in the top of this bump stop, and we cut the bump stop to that level. I can't recall, it's been a long time, if I have to cut off that last piece or not, but I don't believe so. There's our airbag. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our airbag up inside here, and we're going to get the spring and assembly up in here, and already through the floor, you can see through that grommet, I've popped through the airline. So I have to do it on both sides, and then we'll continue the interior assembly. Alright, we got our spring in place. Now these springs are slightly bigger than the OEM ones if you've got a standard 4Runner. These are actually 07 FJ 4x4 springs. We use the FJ springs in the front and rear for about a 1.75-ish to 2-inch lift on a 3rd gen 4Runner. So the FJ springs work great. But so it's like a really poor man's lift. So anyways, we've got our bump stop cut. The line comes through right through the center, like I said. We're going to attach the line, and then we're going to pull the line back through on the interior until the airbag is actually touching and suspended from our bump stop. So I'm going to put the line on. I don't think it came with clips. But anyways, let me put the camera down. Let me get this on. You guys know what I'm doing, and I'll show you just a second. Alright, now that I stopped monkeying with that one-handed, you can see what we've done. So our spring, we've dialed that to fit down in the perch properly, and the airbag is pulled up and just very loosely suspended by the hose. Once we put compression on this and lower the vehicle down, the airbag will come down and make contact with the bottom plate, which is just fine, and we'll kind of wipe that off, clean that up really good, and then yeah, everything is ready to assemble. We're going to do the other side, which is the exact same process, and then we'll have the air lines inside the vehicle so we can get those routed to the compressor and to the switch assembly, and we'll show you how that's done in just a minute. All right, so now that we got both airbags in place and we got the springs kind of located where they need to be and all set up, we are going to now lift the axle back up until the springs make really good solid contact, and we've got to get our rear shocks reconnected. Like I talked about, we had to take those off so we could get the axle dropped far enough. So we'll get the rear shocks reconnected. We're going to get those bolted on. And once we do that, we can actually lift it back up, put the tires on, and that'll be done. That part will be done for this installation. And then we're going to come up on the inside, and these are grommets I was talking about. We have our two little grommets. Get that vacuumed out. That's where the air lines come up through like it was made for it. Those are like the exact location the grommets need to be. That's what makes it real easy. We have our air line, and we're going to get all this routed, and then we're going to start routing the electrical from the panel across. We're going to get it inside here, and that's really going to complete the install. So we really don't have too much more to go. I think most of this is just camera time. It takes a lot of time to do all the camera work, but it's a really quick and easy install. So all right, so we're done with the routing. We just used some fiber tape that we had. This is laid out nice and neat. We have a plastic T-assembly which connects both airbags to the same line. The line runs up here. Now this is crazy, but all the lines really connect into each other. The compressor itself has a check valve in it, so it just ends up being one line coming to the metal T that comes in the kit. And that's going to go up, and it's going to go to our gauge, which will allow us to turn on the compressor and turn off the compressor. We have our line running here with power wire. It's kind of pulled out. The power wire should be almost under the line because the line's a lot thicker. And I'm not worried about this ever chafing. Never happened in my old vehicle. Nothing's going to cut because you not only have this big heavy rubber mat with these rubber spiky feet on there that stand off of the line under the vehicle, but you also have your carpet, and then we have a WeatherTech mat on top of that, so we're completely fine. Plus the cigarette lighter adapter that we're going to be tapping into the back side of, that is fused as well in the vehicle, so that runs over to the side. And again, well, I already clipped the panel on, but we just use that 10 millimeter like I talked about to ground it. So again, we have one wire that comes over. Alright, so what we've done over here is we used a hole saw, trim the hole. One wire goes all the way over to the compressor. The other wire just comes out here, and it's just a bare end because this is what we're going to tap into our positive line on this harness. So what I've done, so this air line, the reason why I had to drill a little bit bigger hole than what you might expect, well, all those will go back up, all those wires will go in that hole. But this air line itself has to kind of go into the hole. This has VHB on top. I got to pull that red off. I've already prepped the surface, and we're gonna put a couple of screws, and we're gonna mount this gauge right in there. Of course, the air line and all the wiring and everything will be hidden, so when you take off this side panel, your gauge and your pressure release and your on-off is right here. On the switch itself, it doesn't matter really which side goes to where, but I usually put any input power, basically 12 volt positive on the center, and then output, which will go to the compressor on this side. So all right, let me get this all mounted up, and all we're going to be doing is cutting this air line and plugging it into this end piece, and we're going to get our wire connected, and we're ready to fire up the airbags. All right, so there's our gauge. We've got it all mounted up nice and neat, so the cover will go over it. You won't see the gauge, and you'll just be able to flip it on to air up your bags. You can watch what your PSI level is. That releases pressure. And down here, we did a heat shrink butt splice, and you can see it's a black or darker colored wire is your positive lead on this. So then we're going to tuck this back here, and then we can use it as a cigarette lighter, just as it was intended. Honestly, I probably would have loomed this if I actually had loom. I'm out of loom, but this is going to be fine. This particular airline is way thicker and very, very stiff, way thicker than the power line, so it's going to be underneath. We've got it taped up. We've got rubber matting. We have carpet. We have other stuff over it. But yeah, this is our routing. So we have power line runs up underneath. We made sure nothing's chafing up inside. It's completely clear. The air line runs up forward. My son put a little bit of a pad right here underneath the T assembly that goes to our 2 airbags. So go ahead and flip on the key, Darren, and let's see if any of this works. That's the important part. There we go. So I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna leave them empty. I'm gonna do a video here in a little bit. We'll get some air in them, and let's see how far this can lift up to about 40 psi. I don't think we'll go more than 40 psi on this setup from memory. So I think our install's done, other than putting it back together, and then we'll test our height. That's it for the video. So I really appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps me out big time. And I hope this is beneficial to some of you guys looking to do the exact same thing. Take it easy.